It's the After Show with TelecomTV's Guy Daniels and Ray Maistre.
Welcome to the After Show on TelecomTV. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content, and we are broadcasting live and waiting to hear from you at the end of day 3 of our Spotlight on 5G week. And after another busy day, allow us to help you unwind with our perfect remedy for the trade show blues. And we are joined by some of our favourite TelecomTV guests ready to answer your questions. So please get in touch now and submit them. Now, as always, the After Show is co-hosted by Ray Maistre, Editorial Director at TelecomTV. Hello again, Ray. Now, the mainly hybrid MWC is continuing in Barcelona, though most of us are participating online this year. And whilst the volume of news has been low, there's still been some choice announcements out there.
Yes, we haven't seen the anticipated flood of industry announcement, but there has been a lot going on with Edge, Telco Cloud and Open RAN at the heart of many of the announcements. I think it's fair to say that we've truly entered the era of the Telco Cloud, and we've got some great perspectives on how the Edge is playing a key role in that on today's roundtable, and also in our interviews with executives from Vodafone UK and BT for today's programming. So yeah, there is still an awful lot going on, that's for sure.
Yeah, there certainly is, Ray. And as you say, we started our day with the Strategy Outlook programme, which today focused on 5G Edge. And I'm sure we'll be receiving questions around this topic. And we'll see how many we can get through. So on with the show, and joining us live on the programme today are Mark Gilmore, who is Mobile Connectivity Solutions at Colt Technology Services. Beth Cohen, SDN Product Strategies for Verizon. Terje Jensen, who is Senior Vice President, Head of Global Network Architecture and Director of the 5G Readiness Strategic Programme, Technologies and Services at Telenor. Werner Schaefer, who is Vice President, Sales, Marketing and Communications Group and General Manager of Network and Communications Sales at Intel. And Domenico Convertino, who is Vice President, Product Management, Communications Technology Group at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. Hello everyone, it is good to see you all again. And as mentioned, we're reporting on MWC remotely this year. And in fact, I don't think any of us are attending in person, any of us here at least. We had a couple of our guests yesterday who were actually in Barcelona. But if you've watched any of our Top 10 Mobile Moments series, and if you do, you're in for some fun surprises. You'll know that TelecomTV has a long history supporting the event, going right back to 2002.
But can you remember your first Mobile World Congress? Well, let's ask our guests for some of their highlights. So, Mark, let's start with you. When was your first MWC and what memories do you have?
Well, Ray, I'm a relative newcomer to the actual physical event in Barcelona. My first event was only 6 years ago, and actually for me the thing that struck me was just the sheer scale, just the size of it. So I've been following it from my whole career, but it was only in 2015 that I actually got to go for the first time. Actually, so I'm a relative newcomer.
Right, okay. So a relative newcomer, but we have had people whose first visit came after you. But let's come to Beth now. Was your first visit before 2015?
Well, I can say I've never actually been. I was supposed to go last year, and then it got canceled on me. Okay, so your first visit is yet to come, and hopefully when you visit as well, you'll be shocked by the scale and size. Hopefully in Barcelona it'll be back to a full 7-hall extravaganza. Terje, what was your first MWC, and do you have any particular memories?
Yeah, I think it has to be like 12-ish years ago. I was trying to figure out exactly what year, but I think it's about 12 years ago in Barcelona. So I think I have maybe 2-3 memories. The first one is that it was 4G all over. So everyone has to work with 4G, otherwise you are not there in the event. So that was maybe the first one. The second one impression I got is all the people. So it's kind of interesting to see and how many people are actually in the industry and chose to go to Barcelona. And just one example, we had a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions. So actually I brought a couple of hundred of business cards freshly printed with me, and they were all gone in 2 days. So that was kind of the last day I had to just say that my name and that's it. Sorry, I'm out of cards.
Yeah, it's a busy show. You get to meet an awful lot of people at that event, that's for sure. Okay, thank you, Terje. And Werner, are you an MWC veteran, or are you still to make your first appearance there?
Oh gosh, I've been to so many I don't I don't really remember, but I think my first one that I actually saw wasn't a participant. It was the boats in Cannes where people were going on, and I didn't really know what that was about. And someone told me, that there's this telco thing going on. But I also remember my actually first participant as an exhibitor. That was in 2010, so 11 years ago. And I remember it was ungodly cold when we got there. And I was wearing a coat and I was really shivering, and I was waiting for one of my guys. And he came and walked up to it, and he wore shorts and a short polo shirt. Well, he's from Boston. He said, that's normal weather for us. I said, I'm from Texas. This is freezing cold. So it worked for me.
That would explain it. I'm usually there in a Hawaiian shirt and some shorts, and the locals have all got scarves and hats on in February. It's glorious if you're from further north to go to Barcelona at almost any time of year, to be honest. Great, thank you, Werner. And Domenico, when was your first MWC?
I probably have the oldest memories because I think it was not yet NWC. I think it was 3GSM. I was in Cannes, and what I remember was the nice old days. I remember the big boats in front of the Croisette and the nice parties on the boats as well. So no, but jokes apart, not just that. I still remember how crowded it was. I was not expecting so many people, and the place for meetings, etc., in the exhibition area was really, really small. So that was impressive and justified then the move to the old FIRA in Barcelona first, and then to the new FIRA now.
Absolutely, the event really outgrew Cannes. There were only so many boats you could have meetings on, and when people were having to stay 40 miles away in a hotel to be able to go to the show, it was time to move to a bigger location for sure. Okay, great to hear all of these experiences and memories and hopeful visits for you, Beth. So I think we'll move on to the questions now, and Guy, over to you.
Yep, thanks very much, Ray. Thanks very much, everyone, for those memories, and just memories of boats in the marina in Cannes. There was one boat that nobody really wanted to go on though, and that was moored about a half a mile off the coast. It was a Siemens sponsored, and it was this huge ship. It was massive. It took you half a day to get there and then half a day to get back. So we tended to avoid that one. Anyway, as you say, it's time to get into our questions because our viewers have been sending them in already. So here's our first question that we've received. Where do you envision the physical location of the highly distributed edge data centers? And we're talking about micro edge data centers and pico data centers here that will be supporting low latency applications and MEC. Are the CSPs the ones that will be building, enabling and offering them? Mark, perhaps I could ask you this one first.
Yeah, so really good question. And actually, we're currently running a live pilot looking at these micro edge data centers actually being housed even in the customer premise, and then one step back in what we call the network edge, but it's still in that local vicinity. And then we've also got those applications that are even being hosted back a little bit further back, which is still an edge play. But so I think the answer to that question is yes and no. And yes, because I think there's still, it's a bit of a fluid and moving situation. I think it lies with the application, and that's the beauty of it. You can put wherever that application needs to go from the performance point of view. That's where it makes sense to have that edge compute. The other thing that is being driven by that is also a little bit of data sovereignty as well. So that makes it quite an interesting question. But sadly, I don't think there is a definitive. This is the answer. This is the location. This is the space. I think it's a bit of a spectrum on that.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, as ever with the edge, it's it's sometimes a bit hard to pin down. Depends on the use case and the applications. Beth, would you like to come in on this question as well?
Sure would. Yeah, building on what Mark said, certainly the CSPs and the hyperscalers do have a play there, but I think that it really weights more toward the telcos to provide the infrastructure to support these edge applications, because at the end of the day, of course, it's the network that defines the edge. And we find that a lot of customers want the control and they want it to be on their prem. So we're doing a lot of campus-based MEC work. And of course, then there's the IoT devices where it's distributed out in the field. So, I don't think the hyperscalers are really interested or capable of getting out to that far edge and the extreme edge type use cases. They're much more comfortable in the data center and of course wavelength, which is in the telco POPs, regional POPs. But yes, they do have some services that are designed for customer prem, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of uptake of that by customers.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. I do get the sense that lines are being drawn here. Any of our other guests want to comment on this question? Terrier.
Yeah, just quickly, I think I fully agree with Mark and Beth on this. I think what we are doing actually from the beginning, at least, there will be a number of locations, what we call edge. Some of them will be all the way on the enterprise or on premises installations, and that's probably the smallest one as we speak right now. And then we see some demand for more the regional, which means a few hundred kilometers, typically max, from the customer to the location of the edge data centers. And we see also, as I see, some of the enterprise or on premises, which is actually becoming quite big in some cases. So we can argue about what is a pico data center, but I don't think we should really dive into the categories. So as such, I think what Mark had a very good point, that let's rather look into what is the need, what is the demand, and then we are of course implementing the systems, placing the edge clouds wherever it's most efficient, and meeting of course those needs, whether that's because of security or because of latency or because of other things. So that's what we typically are doing today. So it will be a combination of different locations as we are using them.
Yes, let's look to satisfy what the demand is first. That's a good approach. Thank you, everyone, for those comments. Well, I think in that case, we should move across, Ray, and look at our next question.
Okay, thanks, Guy. And here is the next question, and it is, can the edge be mobile? Do edge locations have to be fixed in a fixed physical location? So let's start with Beth on this one. So can the edge be mobile, Beth?
Totally, it is already. There's mobile units have been around for, I don't know, at least 10 years, as far as I know, maybe more, that, set up, they're commonly used in, for events, flat festivals, stadiums, those types of things where a mobile unit is brought in. Disasters is another common use for these mobile units. You bring in a mobile unit, you set it up, it's on a truck, and you're done.
Okay, excellent. I think we've certainly all seen those mobile vans around at different places at times.
So Terje, you wanted to come in on this as well. Are there any particular sort of edge mobile assets that maybe Telenor or others are using?
Yeah, we are engaging with a couple of call-in customers coming either from the emergency services, like then we're talking about police, fire department, and ambulance, for example. We're also discussing with, I think what Beth was mentioning, the stadium or event kind of things, but more from the broadcasting perspective. So that's, for example, the national broadcaster in Norway. And then maybe the third case, what is more concrete even, is even with defense. Which is used to this autonomy kind of thinking. That means that they are actually putting an edge cloud, either in tanks or whatever, and it's moving around. So it's actually moving to where the action is, whether that's on the event, the broadcasting, or it's kind of the emergency disaster thing, or it's actually more like I wouldn't say a war, but at least a conflict zone. So there are quite interesting cases where all of these customers are actually asking for some kind of edge environment. And cloud environment. So I think that's surely a yes on the question, I would say.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. Domenico, let's come to you next.
No, we believe that what is important is to stay as close as possible to where the data are generated, right? Because this is what is making the difference. So the nature of the edge computing and the benefit of the edge computing is exactly in the ability to crunch information as fast as possible. So and this may require even mobility somehow, and to have an edge that is mobile by nature.
Okay, thanks, Domenico. Absolutely, and I think that we're hearing more and more about the closeness of the location, particularly around latency sensitive applications. And Werner, you wanted to come in with some comments here too.
Yeah, just to what Terje said on the mobility around broadcasting, right? Just look at the Olympics; they're going to happen pretty soon. The Olympic broadcasting systems, they're going to use some of that technology exactly to showcase and be right there. The scene is where the action is with their mobile data center video and bringing that to bear. So it will be interesting to see. Look out for that.
Okay. Yes, absolutely, and that's coming up very soon, of course. Okay, all right. Well, I think that question was well and truly answered. So thank you to everybody for those contributions. Guy, over to you for the next part of the programme.
Thank you, Ray. Well, it's time now for the next instalment of our TelecomTV Uncorked series. And in celebration of the after-show parties at MWC, and I know several of our guests today have participated in our evening super panel events in past years, we are going to help ourselves to a glass of wine. Our leading expert, Pierre Mansour, Director of Wine at the Wine Society, is focusing on a different region of Spain every day. So let's see what Pierre has got for us today.
So we're now moving to red wine with this fantastic label here from a small company called Vineyard Garnacha. And this is a young team who are based in the region of Navarra, which is in the sort of north central Spain. And Navarra actually is where a lot of Spanish fresh produce is grown. Lots of vegetables and fruit are grown here in Navarra. It's a particularly fertile area. It's also quite a vast area. And Navarra grows a number of different grape varieties. The one that I think is most interesting from Navarra is the Garnacha grape. The Garnacha grape, it's the same grape as the French Grenache grape, which is grown in southern France and in the southern Rhone. It's the grape behind Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Garnacha is particularly good in Navarra because they have some of the oldest vineyards of Garnacha. So this wine, Vineyard Zorzal, comes from vineyards of over 40 years old. Now, you might say, so what? What does an old vineyard bring to the wine? Well, actually, what it brings to the wine, particularly with the Garnacha grape, is it produces smaller grapes and smaller quantities of grapes per vine. And as a result of that, you get higher concentration of flavor. The flavor in wine is derived from the skins of the grapes. So the smaller the grapes, the more skin to pulp ratio you get, and therefore more flavor. So you've got these terrifically healthy grapes of Garnacha. And this particular wine, we sell it for just £7.25. So it's an everyday sort of drinking style of red wine. It's made really simply. They pick the grapes, they press the grapes, they allow the fermentation to take place. There's no aging in oak or barrel. They bottle the wines when they're quite young. And this is a wine that is all about the fruit. It's got a lovely deep purple color. And when you smell the wine, it just has lovely red berry fruit. Very, very expressive. It's uncomplicated. And it's just a sheer joy to drink. Garnacha has this lovely, succulent, juicy quality without being powerful. So this is a lovely wine to have. It's really versatile. It'll go with all sorts of food, perfect with barbecues, perfect for parties, uncomplicated. It sits in the back. People will love it.
Perfect for parties, says Pierre. So I read that as being the perfect networking wine for a Barcelona after show, and it obviously needs a networking glass as well, doesn't it? Because we know when we're after a hard day's graft at the trade show, you need a substantially sized glass to quaff this beautiful. Oh yes. Well, look, it's after 6 p.m. in Barcelona now, so it is officially wine time, at least for Ray and me. So, do try and find a bottle of this or a similar one from the Navarro region. And maybe when you're back in Barcelona, it will help you when you peruse the wine lists at the end of a long day. And if you don't drink, that's fine, so long as you can take the time to step away and savour a moment of enjoyment.
Now, do any of our guests favour a hearty red? Is anybody likely to be rushing out for a bottle of this?
It did sound intriguing. So.
It's more than intriguing.
Yes. I did get one in the mail, so thank you for that to our friends over at HPE. And I don't have it here. It's 11 o'clock in Houston, so it's 11:30. It's not drinking time yet, so we'll gotta wait till tonight.
That's very sensible of you, Werner.
Till tonight.
Yeah, I'm not sure the wine stores in Boston carry this one, but I'll take a look.
Next time in Barcelona.
No, I could do that.
Absolutely. Okay, excellent. So, Guy,
right, so
I think it's probably time to. Much as great though wine is, we should probably move on to our next question.
Yeah, I think we should wait. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, but maybe it's not quite appropriate yet. So here's our next question. I'm just moving the wine closer to me. Should telcos just leave all their edge development work to the hyperscalers? Because after all, it would seem that all the developers are already working with the hyperscalers. So what do we think of that one? Domenico, would you like to take a go at this first answer from this viewer?
Yeah, I will go first. I think, if we look at what the end customers are requiring is fundamentally to have the cloud experience and to have a vertically integrated solution to improve their business processes or to give a different type of experience to their customers, right? And so it's easy to understand that there is nobody that alone can cover everything, right? Hyperscalers, they may have strength point, but the telco, they have important asset as the connection with the territory, with the local customers, and a better understanding even of some of the customized needs that may arise in specific countries. So from our point of view, the important point is to provide the openness and the security that is, and the simplicity that is behind the cloud experience. And then at that point, there will be a lot of competition. So in certain setup will be the telco priming and eventually getting some solution components from hyperscaler. In other case, will be vice versa. But fundamentally, the cloud experience is what the end customers are looking for.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's the experience, and there will indeed be some stiff competition there. Mark, would you like to come in with some comments?
I think this is an opportunity actually to work together. Because we're seeing from a lot of our customers that actually they're wanting a multi-cloud experience. So just going to a single hyperscaler isn't sufficient. You need somebody to bring that together. And then not only that, there is also then the hybrid cloud, that mixture between public and private cloud solutions. So there's a real space there to work together and leverage synergies and expertise from both sides. We're seeing great demand actually for that, both that hybrid and that multi-cloud experience and situation.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. And Werner, you'd like to come in?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Domenico and Mark said there. And the particular piece is, if you think about innovation, right? Innovation happens so often in the smaller companies, right? The startups that come up with something because they have a particular knowledge where they at and they develop, right? And there's definitely going to be place for both of these. And it's the comms providers with the hyperscalers together, depending on what they look at and what the use cases are they're after. There's plenty of developers out there that are not working for the hyperscalers, and we're actually enabling a lot of those now with our new softwares that we actually add onto our silicon, right, to make sure that we really address those developers and give them the tools that they need to develop those things. So it's not an either or. It's certainly the good old community that we have in the telecommunications industry that's going to bring us forward and really drive innovation.
Yeah, thank you, Werner. And so often it comes back to community. And as you say, give them the tools, give them the support, give them the environment. Beth, let me come to you first.
So I'd like to pick up on what Werner said. I don't think that the developers are 100% within the hyperscalers. But more importantly, developers don't know a whole lot about networks, and typically. And I know many of the telecoms, including mine, have been working to create tools to support these developers for their edge use cases. Networking tools that are able to make their applications more network aware. But I think another gap, and I know I've said this a few times, is that applications themselves need to be more network aware. We have application aware networks, but we need network aware applications, and that's really a gap in the market. And I don't see the hyperscalers really stepping up to fill that gap. I think it makes more sense for the telecoms to push that effort.
Yeah, thanks, Beth. And, yes, we've been talking about this, and we had a good long discussion very recently about network-aware applications. But as you say, it is worth reiterating. We'll keep talking about this. Terry, you'd like to come in with some comments as well?
No, I just very much agree with what Beth was saying, that the awareness, I think, needs to be improved. And I think that's also where we could see exciting innovation opportunities. And we are coming with different assets, which are then going to be married together from the telco side and also from the global cloud service provider side, and also, of course, the ecosystems of developers. So I think when we look into these assets and then, of course, addressing the customer and needs, the edge and really making sure that the awareness and that information is flowing from between the applications and the network or across all the components is really an exciting space, I think, for doing innovation. So I'm really looking forward for tighter collaboration on this.
Great, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for your responses to that question. Ray, over to you for our next one.
Okay, thanks, Guy. And here's our next question, which I think might be coming from a European viewer. Are operators converting their local exchanges or central offices into mini data centers? Is this still a viable and cost-effective option for them? And if they aren't doing that, what are they doing? So this is certainly a debate that's been going on for a number of years, and there's been different developments in different markets. So let's find out, are central offices and local exchanges being converted? Terje, let's come to you first.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a very interesting question in the sense that if you stand, from the outside on the street and look on the building, it probably doesn't look like a data center. But if you go into the room, it's the telco technical rooms, and they are looking like any other data center, and has been looking like that for several years already. So it's a bit difficult, from within the room even to see the difference between the different data centers, and whether this is for switching traffic, or it's for storage, or it's for processing, or whatever. So I think it's a bit of a difference if you actually move into the building itself and then look for how things are working there, and actually the ways the different racks are put together. And just to give an example of what we have been doing in Telenor. So we have been working on the data center journey for a number of years, moving away from legacy and that part and now we have passed more than 90% of the mobile data traffic is actually carried by the cloud and the data centers, what we have installed in the last year. So as I said, it has been looking like any other data centers for years already, from the inside, but maybe not from the outside of the building.
Right. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Terje. And Beth, what's Verizon been doing here?
Yeah, they all look like data centers to me, and that has been true for many years. But I think there's a different question that we have to ask here, which is, what role does the hyperscalers have in the telecom infrastructure? And what I mean by that is yes, of course, we're going to be leveraging our COs and regional POPs and whatever for our internal use, but how much can the telcos move some of that those services into the hyperscalers themselves? So, for example, how many of us are going to be moving some of the controllers for, let's say, SD-WAN into the hyperscalers? That's something that's well known. It's available in the industry today. And, are customers going to be comfortable with hosting in the hyperscaler environments, which are clearly not as, I would say, I don't want to say secure, but, telcos are very tight about their security and who has access to these COs. And, they're very, very, within the ecosystem. And of course, as we move these components potentially into the hyperscalers, we're giving up control, which is something that telcos are not very good at.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Beth. Domenico, let's come to you now.
I want to elaborate a bit more on the cost effectiveness that was part of the question, right? Because that's one of the challenges that the edge is putting to us, right? So we are working a lot to automate as much as possible the life cycle of the gear that we have at the edge, exactly because they are distributed across the territory. So it's not economic and it's not easy to manage as when they were just in the central data center, right? So a lot of focus on automation and a lot of focus on the economicity of the life cycle of the gear that we are putting at the edge.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Lots of things to consider in these evolutions. And Mark, what have you been seeing in terms of the sort of the reuse of existing space within the telco real estate?
Well, I think if probably putting myself into the position of the person that asked the question, I imagine that they've heard and know of examples where some of the local exchanges, COs, these legacy venues just don't have the space power sort of ratio to be able to cope with modern compute requirements, those sort of things. Or, to Domenica's point, they're just not cost effective to do that. But I think also not every local exchange, every CO needs to be an edge location, a compute location. And I think that's an important part, an important point, and an important part to make note of in that. So slightly a different view to what Beth was thinking. Not all of those CO type exchanges look like data centers. Some of them still look a bit ropey inside, but they don't necessarily need to be those compute locations. Those decisions, those pieces have been made in terms of looking at what really needs to be done. And some of them have been, we went through a process of actually consolidating some of our sites because they just weren't needed anymore.
Yes, and that's certainly, I think, the case in the past couple of years that we've heard from some of the operators, selecting some of them to be converted and certainly closing a lot down, especially amongst the European operators. Okay, fantastic. Thanks everybody for your views and answers to that question. Guy, I'll hand back to you for the next part of the programme.
Thank you, Ray. And in response to Mark there, I can confirm that my local exchange also looks extremely ropey. It looks like something out of the 1940s. It survived the 1940s. It's terrible. Now, we have another special feature for you this week, and we're calling it Your After Show. And we're asking our viewers to share their memories of past MWC events. You heard from our guest today, and hopefully you've watched our clips from past 3GSMs and MWCs in our Top 10 Mobile Moments series. So now we want to hear from you. So send us any photos you have and we'll show them on the programme. Now, we've got a few more in today, so we're just going to go through a few quick shots from our viewers. Memories of Barcelona, maybe next year. Mind you, it doesn't look very busy there. A very cheeky shot. I don't believe there's an empty chairs or tables anywhere in MWC. You can never sit down at MWC.
That looks like some of the meetings I've been to in the past.
Yeah, there's always an Irish bar, of course. There has to be an Irish bar.
There we go.
Yeah, and on the subject of tapas and food, sometimes you've got to bring your own. Going back to the chairs. Yeah, if you can't sit down, just buy your own chair and take it with you. That's often the best way.
We've all been there. We have all been there.
Sometimes it just gets a little too much. Anyway, back to our after show now. Ray, have you got the next viewer question for us?
Yes, thanks, Guy. I do. And the next question is, yet another telco edge group was announced today. I can't possibly attend all of these. Is there a recommendation on where I should focus my company's limited time and resources? So this does sound like it's a question that's bounced off the news today that the GSMA created a new Edge forum based on some work it's been doing for about a year and a half. But it sounds like this person is seeing too many telco edge groups or industry fora or organizations and is looking for recommendations on which ones might be best suited to their purposes. So Beth, let's start with you. Do you have any suggestions on where to go first?
Well, I will just be cheeky and just say, just follow me, because I participate in a number of them. But in seriousness, I am actually involved in the GSMA work. And the nice thing that I can say is that the Edge forums that I'm participating are complementary rather than competing. So some of the ones that are quite active is the LF Edge, which is the Linux Foundation Lytics Foundation Edge group. So that's been doing a lot of work. That includes the work, Acrano work, and some other areas where defining, edge templates. I'm also involved in the Anakit project, which is under LFN, which is defining the infrastructure for telco VNFs and workloads. And that does include an edge component as well as, just general infrastructure as well. And then, of course, the original one was the Open Infrastructure Foundation's Edge Working Group, which is one that's near and dear to my heart because I've been working on it, was one of the founders, and have been working on it for the past 4 years.
Okay, great. Well, 3 very good recommendations there, Beth. Thank you. Werner, any alternatives you'd like to offer?
Well, I mean, obviously you got to watch TelecomTV. You got to get all the information there, right? That's for sure. But on a more serious note there, from an Intel perspective, I mean, we got the Intel network builders, we got the edge builders. It's also a good place to go. And again, get back in the community, right? So if you don't have the time to follow all these activities that are out there in the industry, get in your own little networking group that you have and where you share your knowledge and information. It's going to be helpful too, especially if you're a small company. You spread yourself too thin if you really want to be everywhere. So I would use those sources.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is the feeling that comes from many people that, that they've only got so many people, so much time, and so recommendations from the industry are actually useful. Mark, you wanted to come in here as well.
Yeah, I have a little bit of sympathy with regards to this question because I kind of find myself in a similar position. But saying that, blessed with or fortunate in Colt that we have particular bodies and things that we work with, and so that enables us to focus in those areas. But to what Beth was saying, I am finding in my own work and research that a lot of these things are actually complementary. Hopefully, what we're finding is that these industry forums are tending to very quickly note that it doesn't make sense to duplicate or rehash, the stuff that others are doing, but start to kind of complement on those. So, to Werner's point, if you're in an entity that's a little bit smaller, then it is worth pulling upon those resources where these things are being consolidated together somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the GSMA did make the point today that they'd created this forum around some operator initiatives that are already ongoing so that they could liaise and work with the other groups that are already up and running. So, and I think that's very much the way of the industry now. There's the collaborative efforts now are much more obvious than they were maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that's for sure. Okay, great. Well, if there's no more comments, no more suggestions for our viewer here, I will turn back over to Guy because, wow, look at the time already. Incredible.
Indeed. Yeah, thanks, Ray. We probably have time for one more question. But before we get to that question, it's time to check in on our audience poll. And this week, as regular viewers may know, it's a little different. We're asking you to decide who wins the daily Great Tapas Taste-Off between Ray and me. And if you watch today's news programme, The Slice, you'll have seen us make our pitches for our favourite tapas, complete with homemade videos. Now, it currently stands at 1 win apiece, so it's getting very competitive. Today's choice was between Ray's tortilla and my padron peppers. And now we are going to see the live results. Oh! He sneaks a win. Wow, padron peppers. That's quite a decent margin. I think I accept that. I accept that with humble aplomb. So padron peppers wins on day 3. So that means it's still all to play for, of course. We've still got another day tomorrow. This is a bit of fun, and we'll keep the polls open for the rest of the week. Don't forget to tune in to The Slice tomorrow. That's around midday UK time, and you can see for yourself the final challenge. Okay, I think we have time for that final question. Ray, what have you got for us?
Thanks, Guy. I'm trying not to look too gutted here. I was so convinced that Tortilla was going to win. Okay, here's the final question. And the question is gaming still the killer app for the Edge, especially VR and AR gaming, so virtual reality, augmented reality gaming? So is gaming the killer app for the Edge? Was it ever the killer app? Terje, let's come to you first.
No, I think that's a good question, because when we start looking into this a couple of years ago, I would say we were thinking that low latency, is definitely the key driver. But when we are engaging with customers, you see that in particular, what we see is maybe the most mature demands seems to be coming from the enterprise, meaning the business market. And they are not really talking about gaming, at least not during working hours. So what they are actually asking for is typically autonomy, something should be on the premises. They're asking for typically something related to video and video analytics, more like, again, on the campus processing capability to recognize objects or whatever. And also supporting quite a lot of sensors. And then a few of them on the manufacturing side are also asking about real-time support controlling robots. So those are the main demands and the volumes what we see these days, mainly on the enterprise market. Then of course, if you move over to the consumer part, it's still a discussion there with a few consumers on gaming or mixed reality. But also maybe something shorter term and more concrete on the media distribution or content distribution, which is more like coming from the CDN and pushing that or maybe copying the CDN model onto a cloud platform. So that seems more like to be the main volumes. But of course, in some of the markets, and we believe that that gaming and low latency for the consumers will be also coming up and be a driver, but maybe not this year. And let's see next year, maybe not, but maybe towards the end of the year. Let's see in some of the markets.
Okay, thank you, Terje. And we're going to come to Domenico and then Beth. So Domenico first.
A couple of comments. One is that, of course, we should look at the edge cloud as a way we have to improve the way we live, to improve the social life at our communities, etc. Right? So I mean, there is not just, of course, a business case to be built there, but there are even many services for the citizens that can be offered because of edge. So this is one important thing. The second one, connecting a bit back, is that we believe that video is going to be probably the killer application, but video in a different way from what we are used to have so far. For example, the ability to have a bottom-up creation of content rather than the usual top-down with the broadcasting, etc. To have people going around and creating their own content, sharing the content with the communities, and creating engagement from there is something that we are already testing with a number of customers.
Okay, thanks, Domenico. And Beth, is gaming still the killer app for the Edge?
Well, other than the fact that there's only so much Pokemon Go that you can play, I would say no. I think it's certainly a component, and it is attractive as an Edge application because it requires two-way content delivery. But I see, as Domenico mentioned, more immersive experiences. I know we've done a number of partnerships with major sports teams to have interactive experiences in stadiums. Another killer app that I think has been underplayed is logistics and supply chain, which is keeping track of products as they move through the systems, and keeping track of them as they are actually moving, on the trucks themselves. And if anybody has ordered a package recently, and you can actually track the package through as it goes through the systems, and you can literally see which truck it's on. So that, I think, is far more critical, but less sexy than gaming.
Absolutely, and I think we've heard some views in the past few days that some of the focus of edge services has changed in the past year because of the circumstances that we've all found ourselves in. So I can see the red light flashing in the corner of my studio and Guy's studio, I think, and that tells me that I think we've run over time. So over to you, Guy.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. I always see flashing lights. Unfortunately, yes, we are out of time. Thank you so much to all of our guests who joined us for this live programme. It's been absolutely great. And to our audience for watching and sending in those questions. Now, we still have plenty more in store for you tomorrow on day 4 of our Spotlight on 5G week.
Yes, absolutely. The next edition of Strategy Outlook takes an in-depth look at the 5G cloud with interviews and roundtable discussions. We've reached the final countdown of our top 10 moments in mobile. Who will be at number 1? You can find out tomorrow morning. And tune in around lunchtime-ish UK time for The Slice, our daily news and analysis programme.
I think Pierre spoilt us with this wine choice today, because next time we're going to be at a physical event, I'm going to be absolutely demanding a Garnacha from Navarra, because it's a splendid after-hours drink. I need to order a case of this. Ray and I will be back, hopefully, at 5 p.m. UK time tomorrow for the live after show, the final after show of the week. For now, though, thank you for watching and goodbye.
The after show was recorded in front of a live online audience.